In the previous video, we looked at the software development lifecycle. So what are the stages of a typical project in IT? But in this video, we will look at how is the software being developed? What are the options that developers have? What programming languages can they choose from based on the layer, so backend or frontend that they are going to develop. Okay, so let me walk you through these two or three options: backend development, front-end development, and mobile applications, because it's very likely that as an IT recruiter, you will be recruiting these backend or front-end or mobile app developers. So let's dive right in. So let's kick it off with the software development landscape. I'm looking at front-end, back-end, and mobile applications. So when we say front-end, we are usually referring to front-end website, back-end also website. It could be a back-end of a mobile application as well, though. Okay, so it's a back-end side. It's something that we cannot see really. It's the business logic. It's the software code on the server. But the front end could be a website or it could be a mobile application. So when thinking about the server side at first, I can tell you that usually the backend is written in JavaScript or written in PHP language or in C# language or in Java language or in Ruby language or in Python language. So these are the common programming languages that are used to create the backend APIs. It doesn't have to be necessarily an API. Oh, I cannot strike it. Yes, I can. API. Wow, that's beautiful. API. Application Programming Interface. It does not necessarily have to be, but you know, this microservice architecture is quite popular these days. So development teams that work on the backend side create APIs that serve as the interface for other microservices. And these are in Python, Ruby, Java, C#, PHP, or JavaScript. And then, as I mentioned in one of those previous mind maps, based on what programming language they have chosen, they usually use one of these frameworks, whether it is Laravel, Symfony, or Zend, or it may be a .NET Core, .NET Framework, it could be Spring or Java Server Faces, it could be Ruby on Rails, it could be Node.js. With Node.js, it's not a framework really, it's officially a runtime environment, but for our case, for our purpose of recruitment, it doesn't really matter if it's a runtime environment or a framework. All we need to know is we are looking for a backend JavaScript developer, we are looking for a keyword on their resume, Node.js. And then in the next section, I will also show you that sometimes developers write all these different alternatives. So it's not just Node.js, but sometimes they write Node.js together. Sometimes they write Node, and sometimes they write as it is Node.js. So when writing a Boolean search string, then you should do it this way: Node or Node.js or Node.js, right? So something like this we are going to practice in the next few videos when I open up a mind map that focuses on Boolean search operators. And of course, inside the members area, we also have a dedicated module that focuses on search on LinkedIn. So you can open up our members area in the training modules section on the left. As you can see, there is a course focused on sourcing candidates on LinkedIn, this one, sourcing IT candidates on LinkedIn. So how to search and find the right IT professionals on LinkedIn using complex Boolean search strings. With Boolean, it's not that difficult because there is and or not. So there are only three operators plus brackets plus quotation marks. So it's not rocket science, but the question is, what do you enter there? And it's pretty much what I just showed you on this mind map. you need to know that developers don't always write as it is supposed to be written, but they sometimes shorten it, sometimes they write alternative names, sometimes they have a space in between. So you need to, just copy and paste what we've already discovered. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And inside the module, you will also have access to the keyword generator. So the Boolean search keyword generator, which is really cool. I use it, my colleagues use it, so you can download it in the members area, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel again. Okay, so this is with the APIs, and then on the front end, say this is the front end website. Okay, I'll just type it here for so it's really clear. Gosh, it's not the most beautiful word written ever, right? Web, and this is mobile application. So the front end is usually written in JavaScript. It is also written in HTML at the same time. HTML, as I mentioned in the previous video, focusing on the essential IT terms and acronyms, is the markup language. So developers, when they create a website, they need to label a headline, they need to label what is an image, they need to mark a paragraph. So that's what HTML is for. And with JavaScript, they make it more dynamic. So they make buttons, clickable or expandable, or there are drop downs or whatnot. So JavaScript is to make websites much more modern and fresh. And when developers start using JavaScript on the front end, they can choose Angular or React. Also here I simplified a little for you, not to confuse you too much, because Angular really is written in TypeScript. But TypeScript is an extension of JavaScript. So really, it's very minor detail. And for us in recruitment, it doesn't really matter. You are looking for a JavaScript developer who can use Angular framework. Some hiring managers prefer TypeScript, but still, TypeScript is an extension of JavaScript. So, there cannot be a TypeScript developer who cannot know JavaScript, but there can be a JavaScript developer who hasn't had a chance yet to work with TypeScript. But in that case, the person can learn it really quick, especially if the person has been using JavaScript for a long time. If the person has been using React for a year or two, well, then they can just learn Angular within a few weeks to use it properly. So on the mind map, you will also find the definition, the official definition. I included it here so you understand that React is a library and Angular is a framework, but that's just very minor. For our sake, it doesn't really matter if it is a library or a framework. Like, who cares really? If developers cannot agree on this, then we shouldn't bother too much, right? For us, the only thing that matters, we are looking for a front-end React developer. You need to deploy some of these alternatives, by the way, just because they sometimes write something like React.js, which is the official React.js or React. Okay, so you can again write a Boolean search string like this, or React.js or React. Okay, so once you know that you are looking for a front-end React developer, you should come up with this Boolean search. And again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just go to our academy, download the spreadsheet with all these different alternatives, and I keep it up to date just because my colleagues use it as well, and I use it as well. So you can take advantage of this. And developers also develop mobile applications. They can choose between native applications and cross-platform applications. I was already talking in the previous video where I explained the different types of applications. I was talking that when we are looking for a native application developer, we usually only focus on one platform because those native application developers focus on one of them. So they can also work with both, but it must be some senior mobile application developer who has transitioned from one to the other, because at one time the specialists usually focus on one only because it's so complex. There is a lot to learn when it comes to iOS development or Android development. So it's quite inefficient to do both at the same time. They usually cannot do any really well. So that's why you are rather looking for an iOS developer who has been there, done that, can do it properly, or Android developer who has been there, done that, can do it properly, who has developed 10, 15, 20 applications on Android platform. And they use either Objective-C or Swift, or they use Java or Kotlin language. Okay, and when it comes to the cross-platform development, developers have three options. Either they use JavaScript or C# or Dart language, and then they need to use one of the frameworks because they don't want to start from scratch, right? It would be very inefficient, so they adopt either Xamarin or Flutter or React Native or Titanium or some other frameworks, but these are the most popular, the most common ones. So again, if this feels a little too overwhelming and probably intimidating, then you can just go to our members area, find the module that focuses on, actually at first, the essential IT terminology, because that will help you to get comfortable with some of these IT terms. I mentioned HTML just a while ago, or API. And then you can progress to mobile application development, and I mean not development as a developer, but recruiting mobile application developers. So you will find it somewhere here. We have quite a lot of modules, probably 25. So this is one of them, recruiting mobile app developers, where you can learn step by step how to analyze job requirements for, focused on iOS or Android developers or hybrid mobile application developers. You will learn how to source them, how to find them on LinkedIn or GitHub, how to screen them, what questions would I ask. So everything is here. Even if you've never worked in IT, I created it in a way that you would quickly understand it. There are mind maps, there are screenshots, there are real world examples, there are real JDs, there are real candidates' resumes. So everything is here. Just open it up and start learning and start filling some positions really quick, thanks to all these materials. Because I cannot even talk now, right, after a few minutes talking about these mind maps. So don't forget backend, front-end, mobile application development. This is what takes probably 70% of all the recruitment needs out there, because a lot of companies have their front-end and backend development teams, and for every front-end or backend developer, there is actually the other way. For every CTO, there are 10 or 20 or 50 front-end or back-end developers. It depends on the size of the company, right? But still, if you focus on these roles and you learn how to close them properly, you will be doing really well in IT recruitment. And if you would like to fill more IT vacancies, if you work or plan to work as an IT recruiter, then you may find this whole booklet with over 40 mind maps useful. So the booklet includes mind maps that cover the whole IT landscape on high level, and then we dive deeper. So you can find there, for example, software web development overview with JavaScript. So you will be able to understand the hiring managers and IT candidates a little better than so far, probably. So recruiters from all over the globe buy this booklet with mind maps, and that's also why I have started recording videos to interpret these mind maps. So just looking at software development landscape on a high level, we dive deeper. In the members area, you can also find videos that cover each mind map separately. So we are talking about a few dozens videos that can give you really awesome overview of the whole IT space, so that you can close candidates with confidence, easier and faster. There are screening questions, there are Boolean search operators, so a lot is covered on these mind maps. So just go to the website and get your PDF file right now. Just go to itrecruitermindmaps.com.